good evening. Welcome to our new member event. I'm sorry, I've got a terrible echo, so bear with me. Welcome to UNISON, the leading campaigning trade union and the largest trade union in Britain. So welcome along. We're really glad you could be here with us. And I'd really like to welcome our guests. We have a great privilege of our General Secretary, Christina McAnea, has joined us. We have Mark Ferguson, the Chair of Local Government. We have Johanna Baxter, Head of Local Government. Ronan, who's the Chair of the Welfare Committee. Karen Osborne, our Legal Officer. And we have Audrey Malloy, who's our Education Officer. So welcome to everybody from local government. And if you're from anywhere else in UNISON, welcome as well. First, I'd like to move to our General Secretary, Christina.
Thank you, Inez. Thank you very much to everyone who's on this call tonight. I'm delighted that you've delighted that you've chosen to join our union. As Inez said, we're the biggest union in the country. We're the biggest union in Scotland as well. And our members cover practically everywhere in the public sector, but predominantly local government, health, education, and we have members who work in the environment and water and transport and a few other areas. I hope you know something about the union. I'm sure you do if that's why you've joined. We are, I think, recognised as a fantastic campaigning and recruiting organisation in Scotland in particular. And I say this, I'm the General Secretary of the union at UK level, but as you can probably hear, I'm actually from Glasgow. And so I'm delighted to be welcoming you to our Scotland, UNISON Scotland, because that is a region that's got a fantastic reputation for recruitment, a fantastic reputation for organising and for fighting on behalf of members. And it's an exciting time in UNISON. You might have seen some of the things on the news. We have got industrial action going on across a number of our sectors. In the health sector in England and Northern Ireland, in our university sector, across the UK. So you've had strikes in Scotland as well in the university sector. And we've got some other strikes taking place in places like the Environment Agency. And strikes, of course, are the ones that hit the news, but we do lots of work in our union in negotiating better deals for our members that don't necessarily end up in a strike. So we get lots of money. I'm talking hundreds of millions of pounds every single year in things like regrading claims for members, in trying to get the right pay for people who work term time, because employers often miscalculate what they should be getting. And that's just two examples of where we do it. But across the country, we campaign on all sorts of things. Now, you're fortunate, I have to tell you, in that we've got some fantastic lead negotiators in Scotland. So on the call tonight, you've got Johanna Baxter, who's the lead negotiating officer for the union. So she's employed by the union. And then you have Mark Ferguson and Inez, who are the lay leaders of our union. So they're the ones that run the national committees and take decisions, will coordinate across different parts of the union, will consult with you as members on what needs to happen. And they're the ones that will go in and eyeball Scottish ministers and Scottish employers to get you the best deal they possibly can. And they're fantastic negotiators, and I'm really grateful to them for the work that they do for our union. But just a few things from me about the union. I know it can be complicated to understand the structure of a big organisation, but I think the key thing is I'm so grateful to you for joining the union. And if you want to get further involved in the union, please think about it. Please contact your branch, go along to a branch meeting, go on the website, open the emails that you'll get sent, and participate as much as you want, as much as you feel you can. There's also lots of training available for you as members, but also then if you become an activist, lots of training available for you in that capacity too. And just we are encouraging, I'm really keen that everyone has a voice in the union. And we're actually in the middle of our processes to elect our National Executive Council. I don't want to get too complicated, but I'm the General Secretary. I'm elected by members, but I also work for the union. And then we have an election for people who come from all across the union, who are members of the union, like you, who stand for election to what we call our National Executive Council. And they're the ones that, in effect, take the decisions about the big picture stuff in the union and the direction of travel in the union. And so I really hope you'll take the opportunity to get involved in that. Look out for the envelope when it arrives on your through your door with the ballot papers in it. And please vote. Please put it back in the envelope and take it back to the post box. Sadly, we have to do these by postal ballot. We can't do them. It's not legal for us to do them online. They have to be done as a postal ballot. So I know it's a bit, it's annoying that you can't just sit at your computer and click a button. You actually have to open it, sign it, and take it back. But please do participate in this election. It's what determines in our union. So I really hope you'll take that opportunity. But I don't want to overburden you with demands on you or asking you to take on lots of things. I'm just really pleased that you're in our union. And if you need something from the union, you go to your branch, they pass things through to wherever it's needed to be dealt with for your issues to be looked at. I hope you enjoy being a member of UNISON. I would say that, but I think we're a fantastic union. We have fantastic activists and members, and I look forward to meeting some of you in the future and hopefully seeing you in the future as activists within UNISON. So thank you. I'm going to hand you back now and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. It's great to have you along. Can I move now on to Mark Ferguson, who's the chair of the Local Government Committee? He'll tell you a little bit about what we've been doing for you.
Thank you very much, Ines, and good evening, colleagues, and welcome to this online event for our new joiners, many of whom will have joined during last year's pay campaign and will be important in terms of how we go forward this year. As well as the chair of local government in Scotland, I'm also a branch secretary and a council worker here in Renfrewshire. I'm part of what's called the lay structures of the union. And the way that we organise in UNISON is we work with our partners, the paid officials, and including our elected General Secretary, Christina McAnea, who has just spoken. And the thing about Christina is that she was the first women General Secretary of our union here in UNISON, but also the first General Secretary of the top 5 in the country. And I think that's a fantastic achievement and something to be very proud of. And she's Scottish, which helps. I'm just going to tell you a bit about the structures of the union and in terms of how we organise and how we represent members. So the first thing is that you'll have been allocated now to a branch, and it's hopefully that branch will be in touch with you to speak to you about you becoming a UNISON member. But if not, you contact them and find out what's going on. And if this is a significant time for us because we're coming up to what's called our AGM period. So it's likely that your branch will be having an annual general meeting where members are invited to come along and hear all the important issues that are going on within the employers that we represent, but also you'll have the opportunity to take part in an election process, if you haven't already, of your local branch officers and stewards. But they branches are very important, in particular in the local government structure in Scotland, because they also make up, the 32 branches in Scotland make up the Scottish Local Government Conference. We have 4 conferences in a year where your branch will come along, and that's where a lot of the decisions are taken in terms of how we negotiate and how we make and what representations we make to the employers at various levels, and as Christina said, including up to Scottish Government. So that conference is vitally important, and people can come forward and make representations. The other part of that is that conference elects a body of people to which I'm the chair, and Ines is one of the vice chairs. There's another vice chair, Lorraine Thompson, and there's 18 of us in the committee, and we also double up as what's called the Scottish Joint Council representatives, and that's the negotiations at COSLA. So where the pay negotiations take place effectively, and other national bargaining matters take place. We're fortunate this year to hold the convenership. I'm the convener of the Scottish Joint Council this year, but we've also managed to make changes to that structure to ensure that UNISON numbers and the members we represent are representative at that body as well, because we've been underrepresented in the past, and that's now been sorted. I also just want to talk about the work of the committee. The committee will look a wide-ranging bits of work. One of the ones that we're trying to make progress on at the moment is around terms and conditions and protection arrangements, as well as pay, which is taking up nearly all of our time. We recognise that across our 32 local authorities, there's different pay structures, there's different terms and conditions, and we are trying to bring that together and make representations, particularly at this important time as local government faces huge cuts, further cuts to its budgets, and we believe protection arrangements are going to be vital in job protection. But as Christina said as well, we also play a part at a national level, and I've got to say that I'm proud of our region because our activists and our staff here in the region play a significant role at national level. We are not just a region of the union; we are a country, and we are a self-governing country, and that's important. That devolution, that we make representations from a devolved position, because devolution, at this level is important to how we negotiate and what part we play in this union and the decision making. So we always have to make sure that our the way that we operate within the union, that it has a focus on the devolved nature of the work that we undertake. Colleagues, I'm going to allow others to come in, but the final thing I want to say to you, as a lay activist, I'm coming up for almost 20 years here as the branch secretary, but almost 30 years in the trade union, and I've seen the fantastic work that's done by our trade union movement, in particular in UNISON, which I'm very proud of. But get involved, go along to your branch, find out, what's happening, ask about becoming involved. It's not, you're not just signing up for something, you're part of something. And I think that's important, that you sign up and join up. We are an organisation of workers, and we are under significant attack. Now, we're under huge attack from this Westminster Tory government, who are trying to restrict our ability to take strike action. But in local government in Scotland, we're also under attack, where the Scottish government is trying to, they're centralising and trying to limit the amount of capacity for local government to deliver in our communities. So we are fighting that battle as well, to make sure that local government stays here, local democratic accountability, delivering services directly to our communities, which I think is vital going forward. So thank you very much, and thank you for coming on, taking the time to come on and share with us tonight.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you. A stirring call and getting everybody to be active. Please come along. We're quite nice, really. Okay. Thank you. If I could introduce you now to Johanna Baxter, who's the head of local government. Johanna.
Hi, thank you for that, Ines, and welcome to everybody who has joined us both on the call and for joining UNISON. We saw so many people join UNISON last year, and I think that's reflective of the strength of campaigning activity and negotiations that have been conducted both in our region and across the wider trade union movement. So I think my job this evening was to explain how we negotiate on your behalf, and how we campaign with you for improved terms and conditions for everybody employed in local government. So I think the simplest way of explaining this would be to say local issues are negotiated by your local reps at local level with your own local authority. National issues are negotiated at a national level with your national local government committee. That's a very simple way of saying it, and I'm sure there's lots of questions about what falls into which of those categories. But I think if you think about local reorganisations within your authority, for example, that sort of thing is negotiated at a local level. So if you're affected by anything like that, then your first port of call is your local branch. And your local branch reps talk to each other, and they talk to their local members of staff like me. who talk to me and who talk to Mark. And that means that where something is happening in one area that we are concerned might happen elsewhere, we keep each other in the loop so that we can spot things and try to troubleshoot before things become issues that have run away from us. So we try to do that as much as we can. In terms of the national negotiations, they are conducted in a negotiating body called the SJC, and Mark referred to it earlier. And what that stands for is the Scottish Joint Council. And you might have seen in some of the information that we've put out recently that we will talk about the pay claim for SJC workers. And what that means is that it's a pay claim for people who are governed by that negotiating body. And that is the vast majority of you as local government members. And the claim, which Greg has helpfully shown the link to on our website as I'm speaking, we post most of our updates on our website and also on the local government Twitter feed, which is at the bottom of the screen at the moment, and our dedicated local government Facebook page, which is also running across the bottom of the screen at the moment. So for up-to-date news on national negotiations, check in there first, because that's where you will find things. That's where we can go to most quickly. We put out regular briefings to all of our branches that you are members of, to cascade to you as members of the union, showing you what we are doing on a regular basis. On the basis that they are cascaded through, they probably take a little bit more time to get to you. But as I say, those social media channels will have all the most up-to-date information on national issues for you. So the Scottish Joint Council, as I was saying, is the bargaining group that we negotiate at with what's called COSLA. That's the Convention of Scottish Local Authorities, and that's the representative body of all the local authorities that you're employed by. So each of your local authority sends representatives there, and that's the body that COSLA leaders, it's the leaders of the local authorities, will take decisions on your pay. For example, COSLA have a number of different spokespeople who are their main spokespeople when they negotiate with the trade unions and when they negotiate with government or are speaking to the press. And the key role for us and for you is the COSLA resources spokesperson. That's the person within COSLA who is responsible for negotiating the local government budget with the Scottish government and negotiating your pay with us. So at the SJC, the Scottish Joint Council, as Mark says, all of the local government trade unions are represented there. And we obviously have the majority vote there because we are by far and away the largest trade union in local government in Scotland and across the rest of the UK. So the SJC is Scottish specific. Colleagues in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, their bargaining table is called the NJC, the National Joint Council. So the SJC arrangements were established in March 1999. There's a whole history to how the negotiating machinery was established and works in Scotland, which I won't bore you with. But out of that establishment was something called the Red Book. So if you ever hear that mentioned, it's basically a national agreement on pay and conditions, and it outlines what the national bargaining machinery is responsible for and not responsible for. So what is the responsibility of local councils to negotiate with your local reps? Obviously, we work quite closely with the smaller trade unions that are also involved in local government, so GMB and Unite, and we work with them as closely as we can. Obviously, there are many areas in which we will have common views. We try to come to a consensus, but on occasion you will see that different unions take different positions on some issues, and that's the nature of how things work. We are always governed by your priorities. So you will on occasion receive emails either from myself and Mark or from your local branch asking you for your views on things. And we do that because your priorities feed directly into the issues that we raise with COSLA and with the Scottish Government. So it's really important that you fill in those surveys and make sure that you do tell us what your views are, because otherwise it will be Mark and I sat round the table, and it's much better to have the view of people on the ground. In terms of how you can get involved, we have tried to make sure that our campaigns are participative, and that you are able to contribute to those, because we are only as strong as the number of members we have, and we have a huge number of members. So the more noise you make, the louder the voice to those people who make decisions, your local councillors and government ministers. The power of writing a letter to your local councillor about saving jobs associated with the closure of a leisure centre, for example, is much more powerful than a generic letter sent from people employed by the union from a central office, because it's about real people's lives, and that is the thing that influences those decision makers, and you make that come alive. So there are, we do try to make it as easy as possible for you to get involved. We do draw up like standard template letters where you can amend those and send them off to your local councillors to press them for additional funding for local government, to protect jobs, for example, because that is one of the biggest issues that affects what COSLA can offer in terms of a pay award, and it also directly impacts the number of roles that local councils can sustain in terms of employment. So taking action on behalf of yourself and your colleagues is really, really important. Again, ways to do that will be on the social media feeds. We will post up there any letters we've sent to cabinet ministers or COSLA about your pay, so that you can share the message with your colleagues as well and demonstrate to them the value of being in the UNISON family. And just to say that in terms of national negotiations, I think it's well recognised within COSLA and the Scottish Government that actually during the period of COVID, some of the things that we were able to negotiate with the employer at that time just simply wouldn't have existed without us. And, you know, there was a point during that time where the Scottish Government, COSLA, were saying social care workers don't need the same PPE as their counterparts in the NHS. We took that issue on. We challenged the government directly, and only as a result of our action was there a change to that guidance. So don't underestimate the impact that those negotiations can have in terms of protecting members' lives at work and improving the pay and conditions for yourself and your colleagues. And the final thing that I'd say is the most important action that you can take is when we come out to you and say, your employer will not be moved unless we can demonstrate that they are going to face serious levels of industrial action unless they improve their pay offer, for example. if we send you a hard copy ballot paper asking if you're prepared to take action to achieve a better pay settlement, please, 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 please return that ballot paper. It's so annoying that we have to do it by hard copy. In terms of consultative ballots, where we're just asking you if you accept the offer or reject, we tend to put those out online. But a statutory industrial action ballot, where we're asking you if you're prepared to withdraw your labour to get an improved settlement from the employer, has to, by law, be done by post. So I know it's really annoying. And if you're anything like me, you don't go to the post box that often these days. But if we do send you a letter like that, a ballot paper, the most important thing, whatever your views in terms of taking action, is that you return the ballot paper. Because if you don't, the law says you're in effect voting against taking action. It counts against the trade union meeting very strict turnout thresholds that the government have set in order for us to be able to take industrial action. And that's before the proposed changes to legislation to make it even more difficult for trade unions to take action. So those are just a few things I wanted to highlight in terms of things that you can do to help strengthen the union's industrial arm and help us as negotiators fight for better terms and conditions for all of you. And I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you, Johanna. Thank you. It's great to hear, and we nag at you here. We're really just wanting you to just participate, show you care about your pay and about your terms and conditions. Right, I'm going to now move on to Ros. Ros is the chair of our welfare committee, and she's basically going to tell you what she can do to support you in these very difficult times. Thank you, Ros.
Thank you very much for that, and welcome to all the new members of UNISON. It's fantastic to have you on board, and here's hoping we can maybe find one or two welfare officers. Right, anyway, in my little section, I just want to give you just a brief outline of where we were and how we've come forward. The charity was actually founded by NABGO, which was actually started for the National Benevolent and Orphans Fund over 100 years ago. So the first year that the charity ran, the actual income was only £54 in the first year. The primary purpose then was to help members, widows and orphans in financial difficulty in an era before the NHS. The fund was supported by members at times of sickness and in health. So I'm going to move, like I said, just a whistle stop. So I'm just going to move on very quickly because there is so much to try and tell you guys. We actually celebrated our centenary in 2010. And most recently, in the last 15 years, we changed our operating name and we're now calling ourselves and promoting There For You. However, we are still registered. The charity name remains Unison Welfare. Okay? So There For You is a Unison, a unique charity, and we have got a unique charity. We provide support, confidential advice, and financial assistance to members for their immediate families at times of need when they have nowhere else to turn. And let's face it, we are in really needy crisis time at the moment. This assistance is often delivered through our network of branch welfare officers who give their time and voluntarily to help their fellow members in crisis. Without them, this great service would exist. So the other thing is that we provide a high quality of advice, information and assistance to Unison members when they're in need. We are very good in signposting and listening to what our members actually are needing. We offer financial assistance to members when they're dependents who are experiencing unforeseen hardship and who meet the criteria for support. Delivery services that are really flexible we have, we also have so apart from just the financial assistance, we also have a debt advice as well, which comes into pay plan. And I think because of the everyday crisis that we're actually finding ourselves in at the moment, we are finding there's increasing amount of members who are seeking for debt advice. And we use a company called Payplan, who run alongside, and they're quite very helpful with all our UNISON members. There is also listening and support, even if you just want someone to just listen. I'm going through a hard time just now. I'm finding it very difficult. So please, could someone just advise me or signpost me? Then we're there. That's what we do. We are there for you. And I think that is a very fantastic name for the charity to have. And I do promote it. How is UNISON charity funded? Well, partly we're actually funded by UNISON Lottery. The lottery is very important. You might find that a lot of your branches at the moment actually are within the lottery funding, and they will do the lottery funding, and it comes out every month. Individually, yes, you can join individually, but UNISON, I can stress, are not saying that, gambling. No, that's not what we're saying at all. It's capped. If you do it individually, you can only do £10. And I think that's fair. You can also, I know that our teams within branches, within their department, will maybe all put £1 in and they'll do the lottery that way. It's totally down to yourselves. We also like to, during our welfare seminars, promote the free will service that's actually in with UNISON as well. And also, this absolutely dumbfounds quite a lot of people because they don't seem to realise that when you are a UNISON member, there is also a 5,000 free life insurance, which you will find on the UNISON website. Just look into it, scroll down, put your name and your membership number in, and they will then contact you if there's any other further advice information that they require. The only thing that I would say about this is please make sure you do it on a memorable date, simply because if you don't renew it every year, that will then lapse and you won't be entitled to the 5,000. And so keep it on a birthday, Valentine's Day, someone, like I said, a memorable birthday or a date, and get signed up for the 5,000 free life insurance. That also actually includes as well the retired members for your branches as well. I'm open for questions. That is not a problem. You can email the head office, which you will get on the website for the welfare. Any other information, you are quite welcome to join into the Scottish Welfare Facebook page, which we do have, and it is updated regularly with different events. We are looking at the moment to do some charity events to raise some more money for you. So I'm asking you then to please keep your eye open, and if you go onto the welfare Facebook page, then you will see the up and coming events that I would love for you all to join in. We are a nice family. That's what we feel like in the Welfare Committee. We're a family. And if you have got any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with your branch welfare officer. If you don't have one, then go on the website and ask for an email Fiona Montgomery, who is the admin officer for the welfare. Thank you very much for listening. And like I said, if there's any other questions, please feel free to put them on the Facebook page. Thank you.
Thank you, Ros. Thank you. I am conscious that you've had lots of speakers speaking to you at the moment. Please note, you can put questions into the into the questions panel, please do so. We will take some time at the end to look at questions if there are any, but that we don't just want to talk at you. We want you to be part of this. So absolutely. Thank you very much, Ros. There is a lot out there from supporting you when times are difficult, but don't forget, we've also have uniform grants for those of you with kids at schools and heating when it's really cold and miserable. So there's lots out there for all of you. Well, we really want you to ask questions. We want you to be part of this. Right, I'm changing the subject again, and we're now going to move on to Karen Osborne, who is our legal officer, and she will tell you how we can support people legally going forward. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks very much. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm the legal officer for UNISON Scotland. So part of my role is to oversee the legal services provided to members and to ensure that members are getting a service that's of good quality. So I support UNISON's organisers and branches in following the various protocols that we have in place. And these are basically to ensure that there's fair access to the legal services in accordance with the rules. In UNISON, I think we recognise that good quality legal services are one of the key reasons members join a union. So we know that you need high quality legal services and you need them available when these issues arise. So I think that's a really important benefit of your membership, and I think that members also want the reassurance of knowing that your union is tackling the big issues and the big legal issues that affect all of our members. So I work alongside our in-house lawyers working on legal issues that affect a large number of members and beyond in the workplace. But when it's necessary to take a claim to the Employment Tribunal, this is usually done by our approved lawyers, Thompson's solicitors. So we deal with lots of big collective issues in UNISON, which you may or not may not be aware of in terms of the claims that have been reported, widely reported in the media. Some of those include the Employment Tribunal fees case, which there was a Supreme Court decision which abolished Employment Tribunal fees, and the recently decided case which was about the minimum annual leave entitlement for term time workers. So, as Christina mentioned at the start, we've also been involved both in a campaigning basis and legal basis in challenging the attack this government has began with the legislation that undermines and attacks our right to strike. So I just wanted to very briefly tell you how you can access legal services as an individual. Basically, our legal service includes employment tribunal claims handled by Thompson's employment rights team, but there's also a wide range of legal services available to you and your families in some cases. All of these are outlined in the Guide to UNISON Legal Services for members. So I believe that's available online, the Guide to UNISON Legal Services, and that will set out exactly all of the legal issues that are covered and what access you have to those. Now, those are normally provided by Thompson's, as I've mentioned, our legal service provider, who've worked alongside the trade union movement for many years. And under our arrangements with Thompson's, our members have access via the regional office and employment cases to representation and advice from specialist employment and personal injury and other solicitors that specialise in the other areas of law. So in terms of the employment advice, I think it's important that you're aware of just how you access legal services. Most of the legal services that are available can be accessed through contacting UNISON Direct, and you'll get that telephone number. We can add a link, or you can find that online, but the telephone line at UNISON Direct will take most of the inquiries in relation to accessing most of the legal services other than employment cases. So employment cases I'll go on to tell you about in a moment, but just to mention things like personal injury, criminal assistance with criminal matters, work-related criminal charges, and other personal injury type advice can be accessed through that Unison Direct telephone line. There's a special procedure, a separate procedure for work-related stress forms where the branch would complete a referral and talk you through that process if it's for a personal injury or as a result of work-related stress. Just quickly mentioning whether you're eligible, that will be the first thing that will be assessed when you make contact for some legal assistance. And the Unison rulebook sets out who's eligible for legal assistance under Rule K. But that's basically the main thing is that it sets out that you must have been in membership of the union for at least 4 weeks prior to the incident that leads you to come and seek legal assistance from the union. And you shouldn't be in arrears. You need to continue to pay subscriptions while the case is ongoing. And that's the basic eligibility criteria. The next step is really for us to assess whether the case has reasonable prospects of success. That's really just us looking at whatever the particular legal claim might be and whether you're likely to be successful in pursuing it through the courts or the tribunals. Because obviously we want to support you in any claim where we haven't been able to resolve it at the outset with your employer, and take it further to the employment tribunal or to the courts in every case that we possibly can. But what we do is we want to assess and make you aware of whether that's likely to be successful and make a decision whether to provide you with support on that basis. So if you want to access support for an employment tribunal claim, firstly, contact your branch. You'll be able to make a referral and complete a case form. Now, the case form is important. Without bogging you down with too much detail about that, this form will set out the terms of the service that's been provided to you, and also what you can expect from Unison and what we expect from you to take your case forward. There'll be a checklist on there with all the types of information that's needed, and branch will help you get that together and refer it on, and then the regional organiser will put your case form to Thomson solicitors if we think there's a legal claim, and they'll give some further advice. That will then be fed back to you, and there'll be a decision made on legal support. And if you're entitled to legal support and we think you have a claim, you'll be supported by a solicitor who will then write you and engage you as a client of the firm. We've got a special protocol, just to mention quickly. This can be found online, but the race discrimination protocol is really important because in all discrimination cases, there can be additional difficulties in gathering evidence to support your case, but Unison have a specific race discrimination protocol, which means that the member will have access to a solicitor at Thomson's, along with support from the branch or the region or both, to meet with a solicitor to describe the circumstances of the case, to make sure that's all properly understood, and to make sure that we can take on all the legal cases that we can where that's appropriate, in order to make sure you get the chance to put your case across. So what we'll do then is provide advice on how to support you with your case. If your case isn't taken on, or we advise you that we don't think there's a good chance of winning in the employment tribunal or in the courts, then your region and your branch can continue to support you in the workplace, and will do with trying to resolve issues and support you as best they can. Just to mention, finally, we also support you and provide legal representation for members that are facing allegations about their fitness to practice and have to attend a hearing by their regulatory body, such as the Scottish Social Services Council, the SSSC, or other regulatory bodies. So when you're advised, if you're to be advised that there's going to be a hearing at the SSSC, for example, when you're facing allegations about your fitness to practice, there will be legal representation available to you to defend you at that hearing. And that's really important, because these hearings are really legalistic and formal, and it makes it makes a huge difference if you have representation at an early stage to ensure that you get the best outcome, because ultimately these allegations or these hearings can result in you being prevented from working in your registered profession for life. So there are huge consequences, and we've had highly effective representation from Thompson solicitors who go along and make sure these allegations are well defended. And in some cases they have the case has not proceeded. In quite a few cases we have had investigations and early hearings result in a finding that there's no case to answer at an early stage. So it's really important that you get in touch with your branch and let them know as soon as you're made aware of any proceedings that are going to be taken against you, and we can arrange the representation for you. So I think I've covered most of the services and referral procedures there. I think the main thing is to be aware that UNISON will be there to support you in any of these legal claims relating to your employment. There are some other services which you can find in the booklet I mentioned at the start about legal services for members. We will always try to do everything we can to resolve issues, because nobody in the workplace, because no one wants to end up in tribunal or court, but we want you to know that should it get to that stage, there'll be support available for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. That's great. It's a minefield for most of us, not knowing how the legal system works, but it's great to have the professionals on hand to guide us through that. And we do work closely with our colleagues in the legal team in the branches. So that's great to hear. And I'm coming to my last speaker tonight, and that's Audrey Malloy. She's the head of education. And we offer education not just to activists, but to our UNISON members. So I think that's absolutely brilliant. So Audrey, thank you. You're on mute, Audrey. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, my name's Audrey Malloy, and as you can see, I'm not the most technologically minded person. I'm the Regional Education Officer in Scotland. So my role oversees the rollout of our member and activist learning programme in Scotland, and I just wanted to share some information on that work with you. Each year in Scotland, UNISON delivers over 150 interactive courses for members across the region and provides learning pathways for members to advance their personal and professional growth. Trade union learning supports members to gain new skills, or it helps to ensure their existing skills remain up to date. Training is offered at different levels. We do online learning, face-to-face, we do them during office hours, and sometimes we do them in the evening, because we understand that people have different commitments and different facilities and resources that they can access to allow them to undertake the learning. And the learning journey can start with short awareness raising training and progressing to more advanced or accredited training. We offer a huge range of training courses for members on subjects such as understanding burnout, dealing with difficult situations, understanding dementia, and autism awareness. And that's just a few of a big number of courses that we do offer to our members to help them either progress in work or to help them cope with situations in their personal life as well. We work with and we support employers to realise future skills needs of workers, and we engage with them around continued workplace learning. This is particularly important just now with the challenges facing public services and the unprecedented impact the cost of living crisis is having on our members. Learning provides security and fulfilment at work, and working with employers to retain their valued workers and support continued learning is more important now than ever before. Our member learning pathways will enable enhanced member communication, identifying key issues, and maximising opportunities for members to become more active and engaged within their local branches on matters that are a priority for them. Learning opportunities are available through accessing our new UNISON College. a regional programme, or engaging with union learning reps and branches. The learning reps and branches can support learning journeys, building confidence and skills of our members. The Unison College was launched last year at National Delegate Conference, and the college offers a wide variety of learning, shaped by the responses from our members who took part in the national survey earlier that year. The survey results highlighted the subjects that members are interested in and also how they want to learn. Unison College will reach, inspire and empower more members and activists than ever before, and we look forward to seeing the real impact the programme offers in building our movement. So what this means is that if you're thinking about promotion in your workplace, or you're even thinking about a complete change of direction, Unison can help you with that learning, and we can support you with courses and events that would be able to underlie or give you even tasters to allow you to follow that through if that was the road that you were going down. We've got an activist education programme in Scotland as well, and this is designed to support our members in becoming activists and developing their skills, and also developing the knowledge and skills of our existing reps that support our members within their branches. Courses are designed to encourage engagement across the wide range of work our union undertakes on behalf of public service workers. Whether your interest lies in health and safety, campaigning for better and safer workplaces, equalities, or if you're interested in improving your paying conditions, we have a course that you can become involved in. The Scottish Learning and Organising Committee is made up of Unison members elected by their branches, and they develop our programmes of learning. The committee continues to work alongside branches and education officers to create and develop training that supports the needs of our activists and our members. Our courses are friendly, they're informal, there's no tests, and more importantly, they provide a great opportunity for activists and members to come together, to network and learn from each other, because we're always learning in Unison. We learn from each other as much as we learn in the classroom. So this might be your first step to become an active. We want to encourage you to fulfil your potential and take your first step with us in Unison. There's so much to learn, there's so much to do, and you can make a difference. So I mentioned the college and our Scotland Learning, and I think Greg has put the links in below, so you can access more information about these or get in touch with your local branch to find out more about learning for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. I have to say that our Unison Learning is excellent, and we cater for all levels of training, you know, whether you struggle with reading and writing, and that is no shame in that happens, and I think that's one of my personal passions, is to support people. That's absolutely fine. Or whether you're on higher levels, so and you want to go on and do degrees and things like that, we help everybody. Everybody matters regardless of what happens, and even if your first language isn't English, because not everybody speaks English as a first language. So absolutely, thank you. Honestly, are there any questions now that anybody wants to have? I have seen one question in the panel about recruiting younger members into the workforce. Are we looking at educating people and moving forward? Because not every young person nowadays knows what trade unionism is, let alone Unison. So what are we doing for that?
Do you want me to help, Ines?
Everybody, I'm asking the questions. I'm asking.
No worries. Well, I'll start off, and perhaps others can come in and cover any things that I miss off inadvertently. So I mean, I think it has certainly been true for the past decade or so that there's been less information about trade unions than we might have liked, but I don't think that's the case anymore. Thanks in part to the absolutely awful treatment of workers by the current governments that we have. And what I think we're seeing now is an upsurge in people saying, enough's enough. We need to stand up and take on employers who are trying to make working people survive on really poor wages whilst some people profit quite handsomely off the backs of the work that those people do. So I think actually we've seen a huge amount of new and welcome energy in the trade union movement. So I hope the tide is turning on that. What I'd say is that we've got a really active young members organisation within UNISON Scotland, and I'm sure that Greg, who's doing all of our tech for us in the background, might be able to share the link for more information on that Young Members Committee. But there's a specific group there for young members, but as I'm sure Mark will attest, we're seeing young members come through at the branches at local level, and our recruitment numbers show a huge upswing in recruitment of young workers. So, you know, I hope and believe that things have turned around in terms of education of trade union issues and the relevance in the workplace, and hopefully that will inspire a whole new generation of young members to come through. But don't know if maybe Audrey or Mark might want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, just at a branch level, I mean, I think that, you know, we are seeing less young people coming into employment in the public sector, which I think because of the cuts and because of job losses, and that's a real issue. But in percentage terms, young people are joining. And it is quite positive. The figures are quite positive. It's about engagement, I suppose, in education. And we used to have a schools, trade unions into schools programme that, in fact, a couple of colleagues were talking about the other day about whether we should re-engage that. And I know the STC's been doing work around it, but it is about that reaching out to young people. I mean, I've no long since just been a young member, as you can probably tell, but you know, they are, because of the way technology is going, because of the way that they're educated now, a lot differently from a lot of the activists within our movement. We do need them. They're essential going forward, and they'll play a significant part. So I think that, yeah, we do need to try and engage, find a way of engaging further. But I'll tell you this, yesterday, Johanna was there as well, we were up at I think Audrey was there, I saw Audrey, up at the protest, the STC protest against the Tories' attack on workers, were able to strike, and the place was full of young workers and young people, and I think that was encouraging, you know, because it wasn't the same old people going along and with placards and making the same noises. There was a lot of young, energetic, you know, campaigning going on there and protesting, and I think that we can build on that. But you know, and I think young people will see what's happening across the UK with all the strikes that are taking place and the you know, how we're protesting, fighting back, and that will engage them. You know, I think it was a fantastic day yesterday and something that we can build on.
Thank you, Mark. Audrey, do you have anything to say on young?
Yes, just to let you know that we've been doing some work, the Learn and Organising Committee, with the Young Members Committee, and they have developed a training programme for their event at the end of March, beginning of April. Information's gone out to branches around that. And you know, there's training events around campaigning, you know, trade union history, and equality training included in that programme. But definitely contact the Young Members Committee to find out more about that, how you can become involved in that, and you know, participate in the events that the Young Members Committee are putting on.
Okay, thank you, Audrey. I think just a reminder, we all come from different councils here. So what we might have as names is our council for one job might not be in another job. So if you use initials for things, I've noticed there's a couple of questions about initials, a role that not all of us know what they are. It might be very common in your employer, but we don't know. So I know somebody raised a question about CDO. I don't know what CDO is, and I think we're confused here. Mark?
Yeah, I think it may be child development officers, because that's a term that's used quite commonly in some local authorities, not everywhere. And if that is, I think the question may be about, is it a place for UNISON? Well, absolutely. Lorraine Thompson, who heads up our education issues group, do an enormous amount of work around education, a subgroup of the local government committee. So if that is the term that's been referred to, then Unison certainly is the place to be. And you also, I should say that as well as the local government committee members, ordinary members can join as well as activists. But we have the social work issues group, we have an education issues group, and a housing and benefits issues group, where workers who are involved in those areas can log on a frequent basis. There's several meetings a year for each group. But if it is child development officers in, absolutely, Lorraine is heading up that as the chair and doing a fantastic job. So if that is it, then yeah, they're coming right.
I think to remember as well, Lorraine herself is an early years worker. You know, she knows the job inside out. She's not just been put there; she knows the job. So, absolutely, I'm looking through this. About trade unions, I think we all bemoaned because, despite Mark's assertions, we're all a little bit older than we perhaps think in our own heads, and it's difficult to think that young people today are not taught the same things that we were taught about at school, that it's not second nature that you're aware of trade unions. And so we, that generation that had that, it's our responsibility to let people know that trade unions are still important, they're still valid, and they're still valuable. And I think that's what we have to do. And we can offer so many opportunities to people, and particularly young people, opportunities to grow and develop yourself and be something you want to be, to gain that confidence. I'm lecturing now, so I don't want to do that. I want to give people a chance to ask questions. I'm not going to keep it going if there aren't questions, so don't worry. I'm not going to keep this going. But this recording will still be available, so you can share it with friends and colleagues, and we'll still keep an eye on it for questions and comments. So please do that. But please check the websites out, check your own branch, see what it is. And if you want to get involved or want to ask some questions, do it. I'm a branch secretary as well, and I welcome questions. Absolutely. And Mark is the same. We want you involved. It's not a club for the elite. It's a club for everybody that's a member, and we want you involved. So I'm just going to have a last look at comments and see if there's anything else. There isn't, so I'm not going to keep it going. But thank you very much. And I want to give great thanks to Greg. You can't see him. He's sitting in the background and he's doing the technology, because we wouldn't be here if he wasn't doing that for us. So an absolutely fantastic thanks to Greg, and thanks to everyone else for being along. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks all.
Thank you.